Sorry about that. Okay, and our second guest today is Nitin. Nitin Goyal, I think everybody is again familiar with Nitin. Nitin is PCC certified. He's also holds the ITCA certification from EMCC. And he's no stranger to anybody in ICF Bengaluru, at least, because he was on the board and very active on the board, as well as a very active member in ICF Bengaluru. Also a very dear friend and my classmate as when I was going through my team coach training, and also my co-coach in the first team coaching assignment that I ever did. And now Nitin is the co-founder for Systemic Coaching International that provides the ICF accredited whole systems coaching program. And last but not the least, we have the wonderful Cindy Muthakarapan on the panel. And again, no stranger here. I think a lot of people on in the audience today are probably alumni of some or the other program that she's run. She's been the coach educator for a lot of people here. She's also an executive and leadership coach, coach educator, coach assessor, moderator, mentor coach, and director of education. She has also been the past president of the ICF South Africa chapter. And as we all know, she's the core faculty for most of the coach education programs run by Coach Arya. And she also runs the systemic team coaching program for them. So with that, welcome all of you. Very happy to have you all here. Yeah. So we will get into the conversation. Now, we've got a few questions that came in from the audience when they registered, and we'll first pick those. And as we move forward, if there is stuff that we've not covered in the questions that have come in from while registering, then we'll open it up for the audience to share that into chat, and we'll pick them up one by one. Yeah, so that's what we'll do. So with that, I'm going to start with the first question, and that is, of course, what is team coaching? How is it different from one-on-one coaching or group coaching? Is it the same? Right. So maybe I'll start with Jaya. So Jaya, perhaps you could tell us, tell us your view on what is team coaching and how is it different from one-on-one and group coaching?
Okay, thank you for having me here, Rachel, first of all. Again, a great pleasure to be with Bangalore chapter. So in terms of your question, right? So team coaching and group coaching. So team will have a common goal. Group may not have a common goal, but both of them can have a common purpose. So a company will have a purpose, which a team and a group is aligned to. Group will have a common goal and group will not have a common goal. That's how you simply understand. How is it different from one-to-one coaching? It is coaching, but it includes many more other modalities to manage group dynamics. However, it is coaching. How do you help the group or team or collective people think to the next level? So that's how I would like to answer.
Thank you, Jay. And Nitin, what is your view on this?
I think Jay kind of summarized it all. I just wanted to add, how Peter and David describes that. And in one line, it's like enhancing the capacity of a team. And capacity typically is defined by what you hold, right? One of our participants, he said, when we talked about capacity, he said, it's like 650 ml of whiskey bottle, which can hold 600 ml of liquid. So when you coach a team, can you increase or enhance their capacity to hold more? And hold could be anything, right? So Peter describes it in 5 C's, but I believe capacities could be many more, depending upon the context of the team that you are coaching and what's the purpose that they would want to have. So in a nutshell, to increase the capacity of a team.
Okay. All right. And Cindy, would you like to add to that?
Absolutely. Not a mute. To add more to what Jaya and Nitin have said, working with teams is a highly partnered process because there's a significant amount of relationship dynamics that show up. And the ultimate purpose, as Jaya said, is a common goal. And in working with this common goal, you begin to unpack your values and how you would work together, how you would increase your performance, maximize it, unique abilities and potential of people within the teams that will help them all reach that goal. And working with teams is also quite, especially organizational teams, is quite systemic, meaning it's part of a larger organizational purpose and has a ripple effect into the above layer and the bottom. And of course, you know, a ripple effect that will go into other areas of the company or organization. Working with individuals is more individualized process of helping the client to achieve their goals. In team coaching, there's a commonality here where the team is seen as an entity. The team is one entity. And when you coach this one entity with the sense of togetherness. That's a bit different from group coaching, which is several individuals can get together to work on a common theme or a common purpose, and they can have different smaller goals for themselves within this group. Yeah, I'll stop here.
Yeah, and I think that's spot on the group and team coaching piece. And then the way I'd like to point out today is all of you in this room today, you're a group. So you have a common goal of maybe learning about what is team coaching and what is team coaching certification. But you're not it's a similar goal, but everybody might just walk away with very different things. And there's no interdependence that is there, which is another aspect that comes into teams, that there has to be some level of collaboration and interdependence between members, and that's a piece that makes it a team versus a group. And to what our panelists said, there is a lot of dynamics that come in when we have to work on something together, right? So yeah. Okay, so and that also, there's another very similar question but equally important. So there's team coaching and then there's team facilitation, and how are these different? And maybe Cindy, you could take that up to start with.
I'm just going to quote in something ICF says around team facilitation, that there may be what's the word to use? There may be a rollover of services or the merging of services of both team facilitation and team coaching. The difference lies because both is a kind of a dialogue, right? Facilitation and coaching is a dialogue. And the difference is in that coaching is a more open-ended discovery, curiosity process where there's more insights coming out. And facilitation could include some telling in it, some structured approach in it. So I think that maybe that's a difference between both, where facilitation is largely a dialogue and people engaging in the dialogue through a structured process, whereas team coaching is more partnering and co-creating and reflecting together, more open, flexible, curious way.
Yeah. Nitin, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I think facilitation probably more centered around a process that the facilitator would own, and there is an expected outcome, by the end of the facilitation. You could be doing purpose facilitation or value facilitation, or defining KRA's facilitation. So there's an expected outcome. While coaching may or may not, actually, first of all, you don't have an expected outcome when you talk about team coaching session, because you go with the open mind and see where the team is going to take the session. So it's very open, dialogue-based, and centered around the conversation, how the conversation is happening, instead of what the conversation is about. So it differentiates between the discussion than the content of the conversation. I think that's the huge difference between facilitation and team coaching. Secondly, I would also want to highlight, and I think ICF documents that somewhere in their team coaching competency document, that team coachings are typically these sessions. While when you engage with client or a team, you would engage for a larger purpose, and that would you would call that as a team engagement. And team engagement may have multiple modalities, in between. You may decide to do facilitation or consultancy to start with. Then you may do facilitation as and where the team is. So one of the important aspects of our team coach sensing is to understand where the team is and to start from there. So that's how I would differentiate, and it's like a continuum. So coach may move from facilitation to coaching based on where the team is. So that's how I would define.
Yeah. No, that's been my experience as well with any of the assignments I've done. That it's to be honest, I haven't done a pure team coaching assignment. There is always and that could just be my experience, that there's always been, maybe one conversation that was more of a training / facilitation, and then we did coaching. And also it also depends on, the level of understanding and experience and stage that the team is in. And sometimes you just have to start with, a little bit of education before you move on to the coaching piece. Yeah. Jaya, what are your thoughts? Is this something that you agree with? Do you think there's something more that comes in when it's facilitation versus coaching?
Yeah, so I agree with both Cindy and Nitin. So another way to understand is team facilitation is like event or series of events. It's more short-term, more targeted on a particular topic. You're trying to figure out an outcome or a solution to a particular problem. Team coaching is actually a developmental journey, which will have team facilitation and other modalities, as you said, right? So the purpose of both the intervention is very different. Facilitation is focused on more short-term response, and facilitator is the driver. Team coaching is the driver is the team, and the idea is development in that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And there's one more thing that I've seen in my work in coaching, in team coaching specifically. There's that I think it's a lot similar to one-on-one coaching, from the point that it's about the team is leading where the conversation is going, versus in facilitation, it's like you said, it's a very targeted fixed thing where the facilitator comes in with, okay, we're going to do these 3 things, versus in a team coaching conversation, the team actually leads, like in a one-on-one conversation. Your client sets the agenda, and your client, and you're just there to support them to walk that path. Yeah.
They have more accountability, and in fact, that's the role of the team coach, to give more accountability to the team to pick up the stuff, rather than saying, I will tell you what to do. It's basically, you will do and I'll facilitate the whole journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's another question and I think this is also very a question that's on the mind of a lot of people who are contemplating team coaching, and that is from a client's perspective, right? What would they get from team coaching, or what are spaces where team coaching is effective, right? So like if a one-on-one coach goes and sees, it's interacting with the client, what are some places that they could see as possible, good fit for team coaching? Maybe Jaya, you could take that.
Okay, so, well, no interventions are invited till the time there are crises, right? So most of the times the organizations will pick it up when the team is not aligned, they're going through crisis, they're having communication issues. So that time, team coaching can actually help align communication, align values, identity, and a whole lot of stuff. But there are so many places. For example, I'm not sure if there are organizations who are thinking progressively, saying, hey, my team is doing great, but I would like to enhance their maturity level. That's like a very advanced level of decision making. However, it generally starts from the conflict resolution and then can go to development, right? So yeah, I mean, it can solve a lot of things within the team. It can basically do value alignment, can do crisis management, can do conflict alignment, can do mostly that, right? And then things will be branches of that, branches of conflict, or branches of alignment, or branches of putting things together or maturing.
So Jay, what I'm really
I've not seen any organization say, hey, yeah, I've not seen
Yeah.
any organization that says everything is great, come, make our teams more mature. But that's really the purpose. But yeah, that doesn't happen in coaching also, right? There's always an element of fixing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is why, again, totally resonates with it's easier to sell when there's a problem to solve, right? And there are very few people who say that, oh, I'm doing great and this is my top performer and I want them to get coached. So that's the same with teams. This is my brilliant team and I want to get them coached. The maturity is, I haven't seen it yet. Hopefully it happens sometime in the future. But yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nitin,
Yeah, it's like why should I have medicine if I don't have a pain? And the whole idea for us to say, hey, this is not a painkiller, this is immunity builder.
Yeah.
So you have to decide, do you want to, have a immunity builder or you want to have a painkiller when it pains? Simply put, I'm just trying to
Good.
I love playing with metaphors.
Yeah. Nitin, what are you saying to this? What's your thought?
So I haven't seen an organization coming and saying, hey, Nitin, I need some coaching. It's not very popular in the market yet.
Yeah.
So typically, an organization would come to you and say, hey, I want this team to become more independent, have more ownership, have more accountability. These are the few attributes that I've seen. Then I've seen attributes where, this team is not gelling well. Can you come and help? I've seen that. I've also seen an organization which has come to me, hey, we have a huge growth target in the coming years. So we have created a 3-year strategy and we have a huge growth target. And we want to make sure that our leadership team is ready for that pace. Which kind of team developmental? I don't know if this leader is seeing the problem or not. But he's saying, but I don't know if this team is ready or not. Can you come and help? So I've seen that as well with teams. So yeah, so there is some amount of, as Jaya said, there's some amount of fixing required. And if there's a leader who's having a vision, who says, boss, I want to make sure that my team is ready for the pace that we are looking for growth. Yeah, then I have also seen that.
Yeah. Thanks. And yeah, Cindy, what are your thoughts on this?
Absolutely, as both Jaya started with it and Nitin followed, you get hired most of the time to do team coaching because of some dysfunction of the team. That's always the start point or the highlight of it. And the good thing what I've noticed in team coaching, in working with teams, is that it has
I think
setting a stronger goal becomes more and more achievable for all members of that team. Because now they've gelled, they're working together well, and they see themselves as one unit. And there's a sense of we can now achieve anything, like we can maximize potential, we can achieve anything. And I think that then becomes like a huge benefit for the organization, because this team is working well and the team is achieving goals. And of course, that most probably is a part of a larger division or an organizational goal. Yeah, so I think that's one of the biggest benefits, the gelling of people, the relationship part, working together and working towards a goal.
Thanks, Cindy. And I kind of, from the gel, when you use the word gelling, one thing that came to my mind is a good time is also when there's like mergers happening. And they're like, two different sets of people from two different organizational cultures coming together. That's also a good time to, and some of those mergers also have, layoffs that are involved. So, your new leadership team could be 50% of this and 50% of that. So that's also a very good place to probably, talk about team. And
absolutely.
And I've seen that.
I think that's when that word, partnering and co-creative also comes in, right? Because of course a merger would people with different intentions, purposes want to come together. Some not so easy, some quite easy, some still managing their own emotions around a merger. So that's where this co-creating and getting together becomes quite significant.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so that brings me to the next question. And this is one that I've got asked quite a few times. And that is, what is a good time to become a team coach? And who's a good fit for, becoming a team coach? Like how long should you have been doing one-on-one coaching? Or if I just become a one-on-one coach, but I have an OD background, am I a good fit? I've got corporate experiences, that this is a good thing for me to take on for my development. I don't have one-on-one coaching experience yet, and I'm not maybe very early in my coaching journey. Should I just jump into team coaching? So what's a good time? When is somebody ready to take on, the team coaching journey? Nitin.
I think ICF and EMCC, they both have the prerequisite, where a person should be a one-on-one coach. That's the stand that ICF and EMCC takes, and I kind of agree with that. EMCC, in fact, says for different levels, they ask for different levels of experience. So if you're going for a foundation or a practitioner, they would ask you for having at least 1 year of experience and so on and so forth. But to answer the question, what is the right time? I think if you have a grasp on the team coaching competencies, even if you don't have a certification, I'm just saying it for some of the coaches who may not have certification and who may not be looking for certification either, but they're looking to build these skills in team coaching. If you have a good grasp on understanding the competencies of individual coaching, and you have had some experience in coaching individuals, and over a period of time, when you start realizing that while individual is getting benefited from the coaching, it is not helping the system overall. It is not helping the team. It is not helping the organization, either because the individual, after having the evolved thought process, is not able to gel within the system when it's going back. I think that's the right time when you start looking at, so do I need to start working with the larger system or a larger team? I think that's one of the requirement, as well as one of the areas to look at to see when the team coaching is. When should you start looking for team coaching?
And Jaya, what would you say to that?
Well, my experience is that the ICF team competencies are built on the one-to-one coaching competencies. And what I'm seeing is, when I'm training people, I'm realizing that it takes a lot of time to get hold of individual competencies. So it's a great idea if you have done an ACC at least minimum, and you have some experience working with teams or organizational development, and all that helps simply because the number of dynamics multiply. When you're dealing with one-to-one person, you are dealing with that person and the system of that person. When you're dealing with the team or a organization, dynamics goes 100 times, right? So if you are at least comfortable with the coaching process, at least that is settled, and then you can multiply stuff if you have worked with teams earlier. Where people struggle, where they have not worked with teams and they have done one-to-one work only, or they have been in SME roles only, and then they would like to. I'm not saying it is not possible. It is really, really possible, but little complicated in nature, simply because the systems perspective come in nature. Plus, most of the time, somebody is hiring you as a team coach is somebody who's sitting on the top, CEO, director, or someone, and they are looking at you like a messenger, right? So that complexity is also a big piece of the whole, intervention. It's not as vanilla as this is the person needs to be coached. Basically, the stakeholders have higher expectations in team coaching, and all that comes into the picture. So net, having an coaching background, having at least an ACC, I'm not going by the credential, but the experience basically, and having good understanding of competencies. If you're a storyteller, if you're a if you have been a manager, you've done OD work, you've been a trainer, facilitator, it's a great idea to mix all your skills together.
Yeah. Thanks, Jaya. And Cindy, what are your thoughts?
Absolutely. It requires, this coaching mindset. It actually draws on all elements of that, meaning there must be some kind of emotional, being able to manage emotions well, because as Jia said, there's so many dynamics showing up. And, you could have the best planning in place to go there and do a team coaching. It may never work out like that. I recall one of my first teams, gosh, I was on such a high. My first team coaching, this is 2009, and it was a part of government team coaching in that. And I had done hours, days of planning. And in my mind, I was going to go there, set a common purpose. And that was it, we were just going to do team coaching. And everybody was going to flow in this beautiful common purpose. What I didn't realize, that team were not talking to each other for 2 years, or talking via emails and their assistants. And when I went in all my, high energy level of, this is what we're going to do today. Oh gosh, when they started talking, it was just arguing and fighting, and because they haven't spoken, that was their way of communicating. And at the end of 3 hours, when I got into my car and drove home, I was in tears for 40 minutes, because I had set this expectation for myself too. But my biggest learning came out of that, and I got feedback from the team later, after crying, of course, that it was so good, because it was the first time in 2 years they were talking to each other, and it was the start of something good. But for me, the biggest learning was, don't set any expectations. Just go there grounded, open, and curious as to what's going to happen.
Yeah. And I know, as you're saying that, I think I see Nitin smile, because I remember one of our sessions, we prepped and we were like so clear that we've got, and we had this fantastic picture that we wanted to share, which was supposed to, make the team come up with these wonderful thoughts and ideas. And we shared the picture, and everybody was just looking at it, and like the responses we got were like, what is this? What the heck is this? And we were expecting like real, insights and revelations to come from that picture, and it just didn't land. So your best laid plans never land. And that was, I think, our biggest learning in that session for the two of us. That you cannot, you can't, if you're planned and prepped, then you're probably doing facilitation, you're not really coaching. And also, I think if I look at my own journey, I think I completely, resonate with this piece, that you need to be like as strong as possible on your competencies. And I felt that, your listening, your presence, all of that, it's multi-xed when you're getting into a team coaching conversation. So it's maybe doubled when you go into a group coaching conversation, but there, the dynamics are still not that complex, because people are still working with themselves. But when you get into team, and then there's dynamics between each team member, and you need to be, in that state where you can hold that and hold the space for the team and hold the space for the multiple dynamics in the room. And it's also harder if you're doing it virtually. So yeah, you need to be really, my experience is that your competencies have to be really, really strong. So it's not a matter of how many years you've been coaching, how many certifications you got. It's just about how good you are at holding that space, because it is complex when you're getting into the team dynamic space.
Yeah, and one more thing I'll say, that check your appetite for handling conflict. If you're not someone who like to deal with conflict, take some time. And if you're comfortable and you like conflict and you love challenge, get into that, because this is what exactly team coaching is about. It starts with a lot of conflict, people blaming, pointing fingers, giving you a lot of stories. Stakeholder will give you a story, and every team member will give you a story. And you have a danger of getting into a lot of, you get very distracted in the whole process. And that's the reason why supervision is recommended in team coaching, and working with a co-coach is recommended, because there will be so many stories and everything will look through. and you would like to trust everybody, but nobody's trustable at that moment. So it's messy, like someone is saying, it's actually messy. And if you're someone who's comfortable, and if you are in a coaching career to not deal with conflict, don't go there. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I think,
So
I
that's how
think
I'll
that,
put it.
Jaya, I think besides conflict, I think it's also being comfortable with not knowing, because you don't know what you're walking into.
Oh yeah, that's what exactly I meant.
Super uncomfortable with
Not
not knowing.
knowing, you should, yeah, not knowing, and also extremely agile. If you know that, hey, right now my questioning is not helping, I need to start try something different right now in the session, you should be able to flex the approaches very fast. So if you like that kind of thriving challenge, it's a great stuff to get into.
Yeah, it's
And also, I would
exciting.
not like to overwhelm anybody who's want to. Yeah, it's exciting. It challenges you, but it's exciting, and you learn a lot, and it can fill you with a lot of energy if you're bored with one-to-ones.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. So there will come a time for the one-on-one coaches when you feel like, oh, I've got this. And then you get into team coaching and you figure out you've got nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you have to get more.
One of
You
the,
have to get more.
so
Yeah.
one of my experiences transitioning from one-on-one coach to a team coach has been that, while I understood agreement has been a very important competency even in one-on-one coaching, but when it comes to team coaching, it kind of multiplies many folds, because you don't have to hold on one agreement with one coach anymore, one coachee anymore. You have multiple stakeholders, and you have multiple stakeholders who are talking and who are not talking as well. And you have to figure out how to get the agreements done with all of them. And I think Peter says ABC, always be contracting. So, you have to be really on your toes to see what is happening in the room and ready to contract. Even with your co-coach, by the way.
Yeah.
Actually, let me put it the other way around. More so with your co-coach.
Yeah, and I think a co-coach is really it's very tempting not to have a co-coach, because maybe the finances make it you making less money and all of that. But I believe that co-coach makes all the difference when you're holding the space for 8 to 10 people in the room. It helps you manage your own self. It's easier to have a partner in the room with the help of a co-coach. And I think, Jaya, you said that supervision. I think supervision is also super important. I think a lot of people can get away with maybe not having a mentor or a supervisor with one-on-one coaching. I think with team coaching, you just cannot. I've never would recommend doing a team coaching assignment without a supervisor in place. Yeah.
No, it's not even a choice, right? You go crazy and then you need somebody. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like...
Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next question, and we've kind of almost segued into it, to be honest, and we're talking about the key skills that we develop, right? So I know we've kind of had a little bit of bits into it, but I'd like to again still throw this question out there, that what are the key competencies to really focus on if you're looking at, or when you start your team coaching journey, what are key skills, key competencies that will be called into effect, that will you will need to really master? Maybe Nitin, you want to start?
Yeah, I think first thing to master is to dealing with self. When you get into the one-to-many environment, there are too many stimuli, that are coming onto you. So being aware of what is happening with the self, and be aware of being present to what is happening and responding to that is, I think, probably the most important skill that needs to be developed. Apart from that, I think understanding where the team is another important aspect. You go pre-planned, prepared, and you suddenly find, as Cindy said, people were not talking to each other. So now what do you do? So ability to be agile. And I think mindset, presence, all of these are extremely important skills to have. I'll stop at that and give it back to you.
Thank you, Nitin. And Cindy, what are your thoughts?
I'll just keep adding. I think the space of trust and safety. And I like this word cultivates, because you may think this week with the team, it's really the sense of trust and safety. But okay, the team coaching is done and you have left, and you don't know the dynamics that is happening until you meet again. And you find yourself in the space of cultivating trust or doing something around creating the space of trust and safety again for, this deeper sense of work or evoking awareness that's going to happen. So I think trust and safety is an ongoing work progress with teams. And paying attention to, as Nitin said, self and the team and what's going on, partnering and co-creating with them, even when, things are not so well. Co-create, are you going to manage things that are not working or not well with the entire team? The sense of partnering in the way you kind of include everyone, the sense of inclusion, belonging within the team.
Thanks. Thank you, Cindy. And Jaya, what are your thoughts?
So I would say it's like a mixed bag of skills and content that you need to know, and a lot of dynamicity, right, in yourself, right? Like one is definitely comfortable dealing with conflict and be agile to change your approaches, being able to contract and catch when is the time to recontract, because when does the boundary gets crossed, you don't even know. And when are you you're dealing with projection or transference, you don't know. A lot of times you have your own agenda to show results to stakeholder. So many things happen. So again, in terms of skills, what ICF supports and competencies, and then skills like storytelling is very helpful, because a lot of times it is not about just coaching. Not a lot of times it is not about telling. At times it's about inspiring and motivating. At times it's about creating a realization collectively. At times it's also about getting them to experience something. So there are a lot of skills coming. In fact, in the ICF team coaching document, they give a mix of skills: team facilitation, storytelling, some of more stuff. So all those skills. So it's actually like it's a very dynamic role, which needs you to take coaching competencies at the base and then play with other things, like including drama and play, and mix anything to that. So that's how I put it. It's a very dynamic role. If you like enjoying and playing and dealing with adventure at the same time, you can be as creative as you like. Because idea is to reach the outcome. How you reach can be your own style. But yeah, because it's a development journey, it can't be just dry coaching conversations all the time with the collective people, because you're also dealing with different learning styles at the same time. So how do you cater to everybody's attention? How do you make sure that something is landing? Because a lot of times conversations doesn't land in a group. How do you make sure that they get to experience something before they learn something? So actually different approaches can come in. So ability to be, if you're okay to learn new styles of learnings, and how to create learning in a group and a collective environment, those are some of the new things you can learn. Yeah, that's how I would say. It's a very, it's not a set, but it is ever evolving role, I would say. Very challenging, very dynamic, and interesting at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that to your point of, there are different learning styles and there are also different communication styles in the room. So sometimes the work can also just become, help the team work with each other, because there might be extroverts in the room, there might be introverts in the room. And if you see any average team, you'll typically see people who are louder, more extrovert, are more vocal. And at some point, the introverts just stop talking, and unless, there's somebody in the team or the leader who's willing to go to them and say that, what are your thoughts? Also, there are sometimes people who are very quick decision makers, and then there are people who like to, sit with the data for a bit before they decide. So there are all these different styles of working and functioning and understanding and learning, and, just the way people show up. So sometimes just making people aware of those different styles also becomes the coach's job. And that's in my work, I've seen that that's often, and I've seen sometimes, extroverts can be very dismissive of introverts. Introverts can be very dismissive of extroverts. This person just takes over. I don't want to talk to them. And the extroverts will like, oh, they have nothing to say.
Yeah.
So I don't need to wait for them. And so
Yeah.
sometimes just making them aware that these patterns exist also enables the team to kind of, move forward.
I
Okay.
think
So,
Yeah, learning to deal with power dynamics, right? Sorry, Nitin.
yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Nitin.
So I was
Go ahead,
just about
Nitin.
to say
Sorry.
that one skill that I think is extremely important for any team coach is to have courage or develop courage. Courage to be vulnerable and courage to challenge when it is required. And it becomes difficult when you have a lot of people, they have eyes on you and they are thinking same manner. And then, how do you challenge? It becomes slightly intimidating, especially when you're sitting with the executive teams. Yeah. So I think courage is something which is extremely important for a coach to develop.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with that. I think it takes a lot, and it's a muscle that you will develop, and as the more you lean into it. So yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go to, I think, one question that has been on a lot of minds. I've got too many questions around this, and that is, what is the team coaching certification journey like for ACTC? Like, what is the process? How long does it take? What are the steps that one needs to go through? What is the experience or, what's the entire, and I understand that the three of you are running 3 different programs, so this might look different for different programs as well, but we'd like to know from all of you, what are those programs like? So maybe Cindy, you could start for us.
So I'll speak about the requirements before jumping into any content of a program. So ICF has 2 streams where you could apply for team coaching credentialing. One is doing a 60-hour program. And then, of course, you would do 5 engagements in the last 5 years and talk about the team experience. And there's a supervision requirement there too, 5 hours of supervision. And the option 2 is for the coach that has some prior learning and the recognition of prior learning. That meaning, if you've done 30 hours of team coaching, then you do 10 team engagements, like speaking about how you engaged with 10 teams, drawing also on the elements of the competencies, like what you did, how did you work with this team? And for that, you would also need more supervision. So there's an option for the coach that has done 60 hours of coach training, and there's an option for the coach where recognition of prior learning is considered. Programs are designed in different ways, but they cover basically how does a coach work in teams, the different dynamics around that, with a systemic approach or different tools and techniques you can use to enhance or get better with how you're working with teams. There's different models, techniques. As a coach, you can look around and speak to many people and find out the program that best sits with you as to what it's covering. I mean, that's an advice I would give to anybody. Look around and see how it matches with you. Is this something you want to do? And we may spoke about, more dysfunctions and issues around teams, but really, as Jaya said, it's a wonderful, wonderful experience. Once you get in it, there's something there that catches your attention and you really want to go on doing it. Jaya?
Yeah, it's the basic requirement from ICF is what Cindy covered. It's the same, and programs are designed aligned to that, the competencies and 60 hours and supervision. All that is same. How is it delivered and what is covered is different, and who's delivering it. Other things that you need to see where your energy matches. Where would you like to learn? What works with you? So really, that's what Cindy covers is exactly that.
Thanks, Jaya.
Yep, nothing more to add. Look around, see what suits you. I think that's the best experience. That's the best guide.
right. So, so that's the list of questions that I had come in while registering. So I'm going to now look into the chat, and if anybody has any specific questions, please feel free to drop it into the chat box. And let me just scroll and see if there's something that's come up. Okay, so Sudarshan has a question. So I think this was when we were talking about conflict. Is there a general ground rule set recommended for team coaching? So Sudarshan, maybe you could tell us a little bit. I think I'm a little unsure of what that question is about. Sudarshan is there?
So what I meant is, I heard about cultivating trust and space, trusted space. And I thought maybe there may be some recommended guidelines with respect to how to build that. I mean, apart from that, I think it will be specific to the team with which a coach is working. Just wanted to hear from your experience, how do you do that in a team environment?
Okay, so
I would say it's a whole process, of contracting basically, and that's what we cover in the program. That how do you contract with the team? What are the things to take care? There are multiple contracts that take place. I think Nitin talked about it. There's different stakeholders. So how do you do so many contractings, and how do you reach a common point, and then start working from there? That's how I would say.
There is also a piece of dialogue, where you understand what kind of dialogue that you're having with the team, and understand what kind of a dialogue that team is having with themselves. Like Cindy pointed out, they were not talking or they were arguing, and observing and sharing that back with the team, could be one strategy. But there is no standard template, right? If had there been a standard template, everybody would have been able to trust each other so easily. So it's the context and the team that you work with. And as Jaya said, create agreements, have dialogues with the team.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
okay. All right. So,
I know there are some questions around the cost. So anybody who has questions around the cost, please talk to the people individually.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, because it's a and to be honest, like Selva, I think you've asked that question, right? And there's somebody else also who asked that. From a cost perspective, again, it's going to depend on who the client is, what the scope of the project is, what is the willingness and understanding that the client has of the work that we do. How much are they willing? What is the mix of facilitation, training, consulting, coaching in that? So there's a whole bunch of things that will come into it, right? So it's going to be, there's not going to be a standard, one size fits all approach. And in team coaching, I've done so many assignments, I've never been the same. Right? So it's just depends on how much work, and also what is the credibility that you carry individually with that client. So if the client believes you're the expert, they will be willing to pay more. If they feel you're a rookie, then they may be a little cautious. If they don't understand the work also, they'll be very cautious. If they think it's just the same as training, they may not even want to pay as much. So so there's also how well can you sell the concept. That also is a factor. Okay, so there is one more question that had come in separately that I missed out, and that is, how do you demonstrate ROI in team coaching? And this is also, I think, a good question to address. Any of you feel free to pick it up.
So ROI will be based on what you have agreed as a measure of success. So if you have, and I think I emphasize enough, I will re-emphasize that agreement is probably the very, very important skill that you need to develop as a team coach. So if you have created right kind of agreements with the teams to start with and define the measure of success, then you would be able to share the ROI. As abstract the measure of success would be, as abstract the ROI would be.
Yeah. Good thought. Jaya, Cindy, you guys want to add anything to that?
Yeah, you can also work with the team to let them define their own returns or measures of success. Let the team define it, because then it becomes more collaborative process versus the team coach taking too much of a responsibility or accountability. So it's better to kind of, define it in a collaborative space versus, over enthusiasm can get in the way. And there can be an over delivery because, you feel this passion, you want to work with this team. There's a lot of enthusiasm. But I think I think a very good approach is to do a more collaborative approach with the team.
Yeah. And I think the way I've experienced it, Cindy, to your point, the way I've experienced it is also that, it's what success is and what performance is going to be different for every team. And I think the question also is who's deciding whether you're successful or not, or you're performing or not, is also different for every team, right? So for some teams, it's just like hitting your sales number, and that's success. For some teams, it's about, building a reputation or, having a certain level of relationship and trust with their stakeholders. So it can mean very different things based on where the team is sitting in the organization. So definition of success changes and who's measuring the success, that changes. And ROI will always be measured on, did that happen, I guess. Yeah.
Well put. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I would say ROI is never one. It's not one point you're trying to reach. There are multiple things happening in the process, and hence, when you are recontracting, let's say if it's a 1-year journey, and you have when you're creating a plan and you decide to have milestones either every month or every quarter, there are some wins coming in. Better relationship is a win, and if the team feels it's a win, then it's a ROI. So again, going back to the contracting piece, what have you defined as a ROI? Tangible, non-tangible. There can be some surprised ROIs also, which we never thought can come in, but they came in. So when you're actually recontracting, you go and talk about it every quarter to say, hey, listen, all of you said we want to reach here in a quarter. Where are we, and what is more than this we have achieved? And documentation is very important in these things, so that people forget what all have we achieved. So there will be because team coaching is working on relationships and the environment and the culture. There are ripple effects happening. So it's not very one point we are trying to reach. You're actually trying to create a city through multiple small conversations or interventions, and because supposedly everybody is taking action, the impact can be much larger than what it can be seen in the beginning. So those are some of the things that you can capture and define. A lot of people will not be able to say that, hey, they may go by what is written on the paper, but you can also bring it out, say, and I see all of you have a better relationship and now. Is that an ROI? Right? So coach also can bring that perspective.
Yeah. All right. So we are almost at the end of the hour. So I'm going to just quickly put it back to our 3 panelists for any last thoughts that you'd like to share before we close for today. So Nitin, do you want to go?
I think somebody put in the comment here, team coaching is messy. And I like that comment. So, if you like to be in the messy world, join team coaching.
Thank you. Cindy, your last thoughts.
I would say that, core competencies are core. They're core. You build on that with creativity, talents, uniqueness, tools, techniques. The process allows you, the team coaching process shows up so much of uniqueness, abilities, capabilities in the team and the coach or co-coach. So it's, what comes out at the end is an highly rewarding experience. If it's attractive to you, I would say, go ahead, give it a bash.
Yeah. Thank you, Cindy. Jaya, your last thoughts.
Well, I would say team coaching adds flavors to your one-to-one coaching as well, and to the way you look at things, because now you start looking at the spectrum, each color by color, right? So your systemic perspective or your collective consciousness actually changes. Your lenses change. You multiply lenses that you have. So it's a worth learning. And I have seen my one-to-one coaching getting extremely sharper when after going through my learning and then teaching it. So it just multiplies your perspective. You can see so much more with that. So yeah, give it a try.
Thank you, Jay. I think I love both that, the metaphor of the spectrum and this thought that, after team coaching, it definitely makes you a more, it increases the depth of your one-on-one coaching as well. And that's been my experience as well. Yeah. So thank you. I think those were brilliant thoughts, as well as thank you so much for sharing your insights, your knowledge, your wisdom with all of us today. Appreciate you all taking the time. And for all of our audience, if you're looking for team coaching, thinking about team coaching certification, these are the 3 people you need to go and talk to. So now you know them, right? So you know where to go in case you need to get into team coaching. And, I hope many of you do, because it is a wonderful, messy, but wonderful space to work in. Yeah. So with that, thank you to all our panelists. Thank you very much. We really, really enjoyed. I think we're getting some wonderful comments in chat as well. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you for all our audience. Well, thank you for being and making time for this conversation. Have a good evening.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks, Cindy.